Hello and welcome to Fireside Fairytales. If you've never been here before, my name is Rory and you are watching Varietal Literature's YouTube page, a cozy little corner of the internet for narrative. And if you've never been here before and you are watching live, you should know that to the side there, if you choose to open it, there is a live chat growing a little crop of potatoes as it speaks. If you want to talk about the stories and such that we read tonight, then that is a good place to do it. Of course, if you are not watching us live, then you have another benefit. Down in the description below, there will be timestamps that jump you ahead to the stories we're going to read. And time allowing, we should be reading 3 stories tonight, but the story related to the thumbnail and the title of the video, which is currently The Daughter Who Did Nothing, maybe it'll change, is the first story of the night, The Man's Daughter and the Woman's Daughter. However, if you are just keen to listen, then here we go. Hello, GS. Hello, Tammy Morelli, Uncle Kitty, Janera, Lizzie Rose. Good to see you folks. Jump Store, there's some doozies tonight for your sense of humor. There is one passage where I am fairly certain I may have to suspend you from the chat while I read it. Tammy, it's really great to hear that you are, you are finding some ways to manage your health. It's a tough thing to do. And congrats on the 6 pounds. And Lizzie Rose says, I wish I could do nothing. Indeed. Well, the story is actually about 2 daughters, one of which does do stuff. I don't really have too much to add at the beginning here, other than this is a part of my ongoing effort to eventually put most, maybe not all, but most of the tales from the complete Norwegian folk tales and legends of Asbjørnsen and Moe, translated by the incomparable Simon Roy Hughes, a recent translation self-published by Simon, who spent a good deal of effort to make a truly thorough and truly reliable translation of this from Norwegian. It is, I think, the best one ever done. You can get it for yourself. There is a link to Simon Roy Hughes' blog and where you can link out to it in my description, but there will also be, when the video is no longer live, a pinned comment that links you off to where you can buy these books. This is the first volume. This is 1 volume. Look at that. 1 volume. The annotated edition is my recommendation. It has lots of really crucial info because folklore can be very confusing since it existed in a context that no longer is regular for us. Footnotes are how you find your way back to that. Zombie Wolf, good to see you. We've talked a little bit outside the stream, but I haven't seen you here for a while. Zombie Wolf says, according to my mom, I do nothing. According to my dad, princesses don't do anything below their status. Well, we'll see who you identify with in the story then. All right, well, it is slightly cooler than it was, which is good news for all of us because it means that I am less likely to just stop the stream because I get too hot. Lizzie Rose reminding the group that I consistently forget to bring that book with me, but I remembered this time. So let's pretend that we are in a place where it isn't 1,000,000 degrees and 6,000% humidity. Instead, we're in a moss-roofed little hut out in a verdant field touched by dew and storm clouds. Definitely not the world I'm currently in. Our first tale tonight comes to us again from the book, The Complete Norwegian Folk Tales and Legends of Asbjørnsen and Moe, Volume 1, Annotated Edition, translated by Simon Roy Hughes, which you can buy yourself, and you absolutely should, in the pinned comment down below. And the tale that we're reading tonight is called The Man's Daughter and the Woman's Daughter, and it is ultimately about a daughter who does nothing useful. There were once a couple of folk who had married, and each had their own daughter. The woman's daughter was bored and lazy, would never do anything, and the daughter of the man who was clever and willing, but even so, she could never make her mother laugh, and both the woman and her daughter wanted to be rid of her. Now there was once that both of them went to the well to spin. The woman's daughter should spin flax, but the man's daughter had nothing but bristles. "You are always so clever and dependable," said the woman's daughter, "but even so, I'm not afraid to spin against you." So they agreed that the one who had first broke the thread would jump in the well. And just like that, the man's daughter broke her thread, and she had to jump in the well. When she came to the bottom of the well, she didn't hurt herself, and far and wide around, she saw not the bottom of a well, but nothing other than a beautiful green meadow. She walked a little ways across the meadow, and then she came to a hedge, and she should cross it. "Oh, don't tread so heavily on me," said the hedge, "and I'll return the favor, I will." And so she made herself as light as a feather, and stepped so gently that she hardly even came close to it. And there's a picture here of the woman and her daughter, and they seem to be speaking to, or at least talking to, or more likely scolding the father's daughter, the man's daughter. And she is sort of looking scolded and her head is down, but she is otherwise an upright and average-looking girl. But across from her is the screwy hag face of the mother and her bratty face of her daughter. There's definitely an implication in the drawing that she is the better of the three. Then she went a little farther, and she came to a branded cow walking around with a milk bucket hanging from its horns. It was a big, beautiful cow, and its udder was full and firm. "Oh, please milk me," said the cow, "for I am so full of milk. Drink as much as you like, and pour the rest on my hooves, and I'll return the favor, I will." Well, the man's daughter did as the cow bade her. She barely took hold of the teats, and the milk splashed in the bucket. Then she drank her fill, and poured the rest on its hooves, and then she hung the bucket back on the cow's horns. I do want to ask anybody who actually knows something about farming, is that a thing? Pouring the spare cream on the hooves of the cow? I've never heard of such a thing. When she had gone a distance farther, through the meadow, she met a large ram that had such a thick, long wool that it pulled along behind it where it went. A big pair of shears hung from one horn. "Oh, shear me," said the ram, "for I've gone panting with all this wool, for it is so hot that I am ready to suffocate. Take as much as you want, and wind the rest around my neck, and I'll return the favor." Well, she was immediately willing. The ram lay down in her lap, and it lay so still, and she sheared so nicely, that it didn't even get the slightest of scratches in its skin. Then she took as much as she wanted of the wool, and the rest she wound round the ram's neck. A little farther on, she came to an apple tree that was so full of apples that all its branches were bent to the ground, and in by the trunk stood a small staff. "Oh, please pick the apples from me, so that my branches can be straight," it said, "for it is wearying to stand so crooked. But strike gently and carefully, so that you don't beat me up. Eat as many as you want, and put the rest in my roots, and I'll return the favor, I will." So she picked those she could reach, and then she took the staff and carefully knocked the others down. And then she ate well. She laid the rest nicely by its roots. Then she went on a long, long way before she came to a great farm where a witch lived with her daughter. She went in and asked if she could go into service. "Oh, that won't do any good," said the witch. "We have had many, but none of them were any good." But she asked so beautifully that in the end they took her into service. Yes, they took her, and the witch gave her a grain sieve, and bade her fetch her water in it. Well, she thought it was unreasonable to fetch water in a grain sieve, but she went anyways. And when she came to the well, the small bird sang. "Weet, weet, weet, smear and clay, stick and straw, smear and clay, stick and straw." Indeed, she did so. And then she could carry water in the grain sieve quite well. But when she came home with the water, the witch saw her, and she said, "You haven't suckled this at your own breast." And if you're wondering to yourself, what does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine. My guess is what she means is you didn't think of that yourself. Or at least she doesn't believe it. Then the witch said she should go to the barn and muck it out and do the milking. But when she got there, the shovel was so big and heavy that she couldn't use it. She couldn't even move it. She didn't know what to do. But the birds sang that she should take the broom and throw out a little, and all the rest will follow. She did so, and it was hardly done before the barn was as clean as if it had been both mucked out and swept. Now she had to milk the cows, but they were so uneasy that they both kicked and bucked, and she couldn't get close enough to milk them. But then the birds sang outside. "Small stream, squirt a little sip to all the little birds." Well, she did so. I mean, it helped her well enough the first time. She squirted a small stream of milk to the little birds, and then all the cows stood still and let her milk them, neither bucking nor kicking. They didn't even lift a foot. And when the witch saw her come in, she said, "You haven't suckled this at your own breast, but take this black wool now and wash it white." The girl didn't know at all how she should finish this. She'd never seen anyone wash black wool white, but she said nothing. She took the wool and went out to the well with it, and then the little birds sang that she should take the wool and put it up in the big bucket that stood there, and then it would turn white enough. "No, no," said the witch when she came back in with the wool. "You're no use at all. You can do whatever is wanted. You are going to annoy the life out of me. It's best I be rid of you." Then the witch set out 3 boxes, one red, one green, and one blue. She was allowed to take the one she wanted, and that would be her wage. She didn't know what to do. But the little bird sang, "Take not the green, take not the red, but take the blue that we've put 3 crosses on to." And so she took the blue, as the birds had advised in their very pretty song. "Please yourself, then," said the witch. "You will have to make up for it." When the man's daughter should leave, the witch shot a glowing iron rod after her, but she slipped behind the door and just like that, hid. And it didn't hit her. The little birds had told her how she should behave herself. She went on now as fast as she could, but when she came to the apple tree, she heard rumbling along the road. It was the witch and her daughter coming after her. The girl was so scared she didn't know where she should go. "Come here to me, you," said the apple tree, "and I'll help you. Go beneath my branches and hide, for if they grab hold of you, they will take the box from you and tear you to pieces." Jump Store, remember it's translated. "You! Have you seen a girl walking about here?" said the witch. "Oh, yes," said the apple tree. "One ran past a while ago, but she is so far away by now that you'll never catch her up." So the witch turned round and returned home. The girl walked a distance farther, and when she came to the ram, she heard the rumbling begin again, and she didn't know where to put herself, so scared and terrified she was. She could guess it was the witch again. Come here to me, and I'll help you," said the ram. "Hide under my wool, and they won't see you. Otherwise, they will take the box from you and tear you to pieces." And just like that, the witch came a-faring. "You! Have you seen a girl walking about here?" she said to the ram. "Oh," said the ram, "I saw one a while ago, but she ran so quickly that you'll never catch her up." So the witch turned round and went home. And when the girl had come as far as to the cow, she heard the rumbling begin again. "Come here to me," said the cow, "and I'll help you. Hide beneath my udder, and otherwise the witch will come and take the box from you, tear you to pieces." And it wasn't long before the witch indeed did come. Have you seen a girl walking about here?" said the witch to the cow. "Yes, I saw one a while ago, but she is far away by now, for she ran so fast you'll not catch her up," said the cow. And so the witch turned and returned home. When the girl came a long way along and wasn't far from the hedge, she heard the rumbling begin again, and she was both scared and terrified, for she knew it was the witch who had turned round again. "Come here to me, and I'll help you," said the hedge. "Creep beneath my twigs so they don't see you. Otherwise she'll take the box from you and tear you to pieces." And well, she went in beneath the twigs in the hedge. Have you seen a girl walking about here?" said the witch to the hedge. "No, I "Haven't seen any girl," replied the hedge, and it was so angry that it hissed and made itself so big that there was no way to cross it. So there was nothing for the witch to do but turn round, return home. And when the man's daughter had safely come home, both the woman and her daughter grew even more envious of her than they had been before, for now she was even more beautiful, though the story doesn't tell us why. And so fair that it was a pleasure to see her. She wasn't allowed to remain inside with them. They chased her out to the pigsty where she should stay. She washed it out until it was nice and clean, and then she opened the box, for she wanted to see what she had received for her wage. And as soon as she opened it, there was so much gold and silver and so many precious things in it that the walls and the ceilings were hanging full. It was a lot finer in the pigsty than in the costliest of kings' farms. When her stepmother and daughters saw this, they were astounded, and they, of course, started to pry, asking how she'd fared in service. "Oh," she said, "you understand that since I have received such a wage, that they are such folk, there isn't the like of which such a wife to serve." Well, then the woman's daughter would also go into service, so that she could get such a box of gold. They sat down to spin again, but this time the woman's daughter should spin the bristles, and the man's daughter should spin the flax, and the one whose thread broke first would go down the well. And it didn't take long before the woman's daughter's thread broke, you see, and so they threw her in the well. I have so many questions about this section of the story, but I'm going to leave it for now. Now, things went just the same way. She fell to the bottom, but didn't hurt herself, and then she came to a beautiful green meadow. I do appreciate stories written in a time when, like, responsibility for, children and stuff was just not a worry. Because if you put this in, like, a TV show now for kids would be jumping down wells. Now, things went just the same way. She fell to the bottom, but didn't hurt herself, and then she came to a beautiful green meadow. And when she'd walked for a while, she came to the hedge. "Oh, don't tread heavily upon me, you, and I'll return the favor," it said. "Oh, what do I care about a heap of twigs?" she said, making herself heavy and treading on the hedge so that it began to crack. In a little while she came to the cow, which needed milking again. "Please milk me," said the cow, "and I'll return the favor. Drink as much as you want, and pour the rest on my hooves." Well, she did so. She milked the cow, and then she drank as much as she could. And there was nothing left to pour on its hooves, and then she threw the bucket across the ground. When she had walked away further, she came to the ram that went about, pulling its wool behind it. Please shear me, and I will serve you back, I will," said the ram. "Take as much of the wool as you want, and wrap the rest around my neck." And she did so, but she was so careless that she cut big holes in its skin, and she took all the wool with her. And after a little while she came to the apple tree, which stood quite crooked, bearing its apples. "Please, pick my apples, so that my branches may straighten, for it is wearying to stand so crooked," said the apple tree. "Oh, but be careful, so that you don't beat me up. Eat as many as you like, and put the rest neatly by my roots, and I'll return the favor." Well, she plucked off the closest, and then she beat down those she could not reach with the staff, but took no care, and tore and knocked down big branches, and ate until she could manage no more, and then she threw the rest beneath the tree. After she had walked for a little distance, she came to the farm where the witch lived. She came to go into service. The witch said she didn't want any maid. Either they were good for nothing, or they were far too clever, and cheated her out of what she had. The woman's daughter didn't give in, but said she wanted to go into service, and so the witch said she would take her in, and if she was good for anything. The first thing she had to do was fetch water in the grain sieve. So she went to the well and poured water into the grain sieve, but as fast as she poured it in, it ran out again. And then the birds sang, "Smearing clay, sticking straw, smearing clay, sticking straw." But she didn't care what the birds said. She threw clay at the birds so that they flew far away, and then she had to go home again with the empty grain sieve and was thrashed by the witch. Then she should muck out the barn and milk the cows, but she was certainly too good for that, she thought. Even so, she went to the barn, but when she got there, she couldn't manage the shovel. It was so big it was. And the birds said the same to her as they did to the man's daughter, that she should take the broomstick and throw out a little, so the rest would follow. But she took the broomstick, and she threw it at the birds. When she went to do the milking, the cows were so uneasy that they bucked and kicked, and every time she had a little in the bucket, they knocked it over, and the birds sang, "Small stream, squirt a little sip to all the little birds." But she beat and struck the cows, threw and slung everything she came across at the birds, and carried herself so things were quite different, and so she neither mucked out nor milked. When she came in, the witch both struck and scolded her, and then when she should wash the black wool white, things didn't go any better. The witch thought this was too bad, and so she set forth 3 boxes, 1 red, 1 green, and 1 blue, and said that she had no need for her. She was good for nothing in the world, but even so, as her wage, she should be allowed to take the box she wanted. Then the birds sang, "Take not the green, take not the red, but take the blue that we've put 3 crosses onto." She didn't care what the birds were singing. She took the red one, which she'd been staring at the most, and then she went home. Oof. She got to go in peace and quiet. No one was following her, and when she got home, her mother was very happy. And they immediately went into the great parlor, and they put the box there, because they thought there was nothing but gold and silver in it. And they thought that the walls and the ceiling would be gilded. But when they opened the box, only worms and toads squirmed out, and when the woman's daughter opened her mouth, it was just the same. Both worms and toads and all the abominations that may be imagined tumbled out, so that it was a bad idea to stay in the house with her in the end. This was the wage she received for serving the witch. And then there's the picture from the thumbnail of all the birds on the trees singing there, "Take not the green, take not the red, take only the blue, which we've put our 3 crosses onto." There was a discussion about talking animals and talking trees. I would be interested in both. Honestly, I think I would just prefer to live in a fairy tale. And if you think, well, you haven't thought that through, I have. It's a dangerous world here, too. I'd rather have one that was dangerous and whimsical. as a person who does occasionally run a hag in D&D, it's a great curse. Every time they talk, it spills out with gross things. All right. Now I'm going to say the title of this, then I'm going to give you about 1 minute to get over it. And then I'm going to actually introduce the story. The title of the next one is The Cock and the Hen in the Nutwood. GS says, but she couldn't see the value in anything, Jump Story. And I think, yeah, actually that's a great way to put it. I think the point is a little more subtle than just she was a bad worker. The point was she couldn't see the value in the sorts of things that make the world work, you know, the value of community and helping each other and so on. Yeah, chat's having a really good one with this. Yeah, GS says all the students in class giggled and snarked. All right. Now, this is one of those stories that's not quite a story. When I told Simon Roy Hughes, the translator, that I was going to, because, you know, I asked for permission to use this, all copyrighted, that I was going to use this, he said to me, we'll see how your patience holds out for this one. And fair enough. I do think... So I don't know if you remember this. A little while ago, I read from most of the stories from Tales of the West Highlands, which is a rather famous book. But the last section of that book was games, and I very briefly referenced some of the games it describes from the West Highlands. Jumpstore says, "Rory, this title is killing me." I bet it is. But there was a game there where you would accuse people in a circle, and you would have to remember the logic chain. And by logic chain, I don't mean like logic, like the chain of if-thens that had built over the course of the game as you accuse people around the circle. And if you screw up that chain, which gets longer and longer with each person you accuse, you lose. And it is ultimately just a memory game. But what it does tell me is that my memory games were a thing in the past. They still are now, but obviously they're less popular than they were. Uncle Kitty says you could never read this in a school these days. I don't think you could read this in a school when it was made. I think this story is more along that. I think it's more playful than just a narrative. I think it's kind of a memory game. But you've definitely seen a story of this structure before. I would doubt you've seen this specific one before, but maybe you have. I mean, it is Asbjornsen and Moe. They are pretty famous collections, but we'll see how you like this one. Our next tale is called The Cock and the Hen in the Nutwood. And it comes to us from the Complete Norwegian Folktales and Legends of Asbjornsen and Moe, as translated by Simon Roy Hughes. An excellent modern translation, annotated, that you should buy. I will have a pinned comment down below with it. The cock and the hen once went to the nutwood to pick nuts, when the hen got a nutshell stuck in her throat and lay flapping her wings. The cock should fetch some water for her, so he ran to the spring and said, "My dear spring, give me some water. I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the nutwood." "Ugh, you will have no water from me before I have some leaves from you," replied the spring. So the cock ran to the linden. "My dear linden, give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring will give me some water, and I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the nutwood." Ah, you will have no leaves from me before I have some red gold bands from you, replied the linden. So the cock ran to the Virgin Mary. I love how Virgin Mary just shows up in the most random places with no explanation. My dear Virgin Mary, give me some red gold bands. I will give the red gold bands to the linden, and the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring will give me some water, and I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. Oh, you will have no red gold bands from me before I have some shoes from you, replied the Virgin Mary. So the cock ran to the shoemaker. My dear shoemaker, give me some shoes. I will give the shoes to the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary will give me some red gold bands, and I will give the red gold bands to the linden. The linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring. The spring will give me some water, and I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. Occurs to me that this is basically a Bethesda side quest. You will have no shoes from me before I have some bristles from you, replied the shoemaker. So the cock ran to the sow. My dear sow, give me some bristles. I will give the bristles to the shoemaker. The shoemaker will give me some shoes. I will give the shoes to the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary will give me some red gold bands. I will give the red gold bands to the linden, and the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring. The spring will give me some water. I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. You will have no bristles from me before I have some grain from you. So the cock ran to the thresher. My dear thresher, give me some grain. I will give grain to the sow, and the sow will give me some bristles. I will give the bristles to the shoemaker, and the shoemaker will give me some shoes. I will give me those shoes to the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary will give me some red gold bands. I'll give the red gold bands to the linden, and the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring, and the spring will give me some water. I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. Oh, yeah, you'll have no grain for me before I have lefse from you. Lefse being sort of bread, a Norwegian flatbread, replied the thresher. So the cock ran to the baker woman. My dear baker woman, give me a lefse. I will give the lefse to the thresher, and the thresher will give me some grain. I will give the grain to the sow, and the sow will give me some bristles. I will give the bristles to the shoemaker. The shoemaker will give me some shoes. I will give the shoes to the Virgin Mary, and the Virgin Mary will give me some red gold bands. I will give the red gold bands to the linden, and the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring, and the spring will give me some water. I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. Oh, you will have no lefse from me before I have some wood from you, replied the baker woman, and so the cock ran to the woodcutter. My dear woodcutter, give me some wood. I will give the wood to the baker woman. The baker woman will give me a lefse. I will give the lefse to the thresher, and the thresher will give me some grain. I will give the grain to the sow, and the sow will give me some bristles. I will give the bristles to the shoemaker, and the shoemaker will give me some shoes. I will give the shoes to the Virgin Mary, and the Virgin Mary will give me some red gold bands. I will give the red gold bands to the linden, and the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring will give me some water, and I will give the water to Tuppa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. You will have no wood from me before I have an axe from you, replied the woodcutter. So the cock ran to the smith. My dear smith, give me an axe. I will give the axe to the woodcutter, and the woodcutter will give me some wood. I will give the wood to the baker woman. The baker woman will give me some lefse. I will give the lassa to the thresher will give me some grain. I will give the grain to the sow will give me some bristles. I will give the bristles to the shoemaker will give me some shoes. I will give the shoes to the Virgin Mary will give some red gold bands. I will give the red gold bands to the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring will give me some water, and I will give the water to Tapa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. You will have no axe from me before I have some coke from you. Obviously, I need to pause, because there are two age groups that are going to hear that word and think two different wrong things. He means the mineral. Well, not a mineral. It's basically wood. A treated wood that you can use in smithing. It's basically like a coal. So the cock ran to the coke burner. My dear coke burner, give me some coke. I will give the coke to the smith. The smith will give me an axe. I will give the axe to the woodcutter. The woodcutter will give me some wood. I will give the wood to the baker woman, and the baker woman will give me a lefsa. And I will give the lefsa to the thresher, and the thresher will give me some grain. I will give the grain to the sow, and the sow will give me some bristles. I will give the bristles to the shoemaker. The shoemaker will give me some shoes. I will give the shoes to the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary will give me some red gold bands. I will give the red gold bands to the linden, and the linden will give me some leaves. I will give the leaves to the spring will give me some water. I will give the water to Tapa, my hen, who lies dying in the Nutwood. So the coke burner felt sorry for the cock, gave him some coke, and the smith got some coke, and the woodcutter an axe, and the baker woman some wood, and the thresher a lefsa, and the sow some grain, and the shoemaker some bristles, and the Virgin Mary some shoes, and the linden some red gold bands, and the spring some leaves, and the cock some water, and this he gave to Tapa his hen, who lay dying in the Nutwood, and she got well again. Jess says, I'm getting worried about the hen. That was my feeling, too. I mean, either she's not joking anymore or she was dead, but apparently not. All right. Now we're going to skip over the next story, which is two short stories called The Bear and the Fox, because I've read this story about 3 times on the channel. Not this exact translation, maybe even this translation, honestly, but I've read it a few times. The Bear and the Fox are 2 characters that show up all over European folklore. They're standard tales. Be interesting to track where they sort of moved around, but they're in every... I mean, the first place I encountered it, I think, was in the Ukrainian folklore book that I was reading a couple of years ago, and then... I've seen it in Norwegian. I think I even saw it in a Scottish book. Yeah. Everyone's talking about how the hen would definitely have died. But it does have this very cute picture of this bear who it looks like he's just waking up, shot from the butt forward. But it's very cute, sort of sparse pen drawing. That I really enjoyed. GS says, kids would love that and ask for that story every night. That was sort of my feel of it. I'll be honest, it's fun to read. I imagine it's probably more fun to read in its original language, too, because usually those stories are very rhythmic, right? And so, but of course, the real problem in translation, when you have anything that's rhythmic, poetry or whatever else, how much do you preserve the rhythm versus the meaning, right? So, I think I would rather have most of that meaning preserved than the rhythm to be perfect. But I can't, when I read stuff like that, I do imagine that probably in the original language it rolls a bit more, but that's fine. It's still fun to read. But, is it a story? Sort of. It's more just wordplay. All right. Our last story of the night is Gudbrand on the Hill. Yeah, zombie wolf. Some of the translations I read, the older ones, still call them that, the different name for woodcutters. And fair enough. I mean, back then, that's what it meant. And as I've said, when I read it on this channel, I do censor those kind of words, because even though I know everyone's smart enough to know that it means bundle of sticks in that old time, obviously Google little whatever that analyzes my audio and decides where to show it wouldn't know that. By the way, I wouldn't say I've had like an enormous amount of activity, but I did have a little burst of activity in people subbing and stuff, and some of my views over the last couple of weeks, and it sort of coincides with us going on YouTube Music. So if you are listening on YouTube Music, if you are listening to this as a podcast and you're not otherwise a watcher of the stream, let me know. I mean, you don't have to. I'm just curious if that was what informed some of it. That growth. What a gross word. It's a hobby channel. We're not growing. Yeah. Let's read the story, because it is starting to get warm in here again. Our next tale is called Gudbrand on the Hill, and it comes to us again from The Complete Norwegian Folktales and Legends of Asbjornsen and Moe, as translated by Simon Roy Hughes, a book that was a modern and recent translation, and probably the best one ever done, to English. Anyways, can't speak for any other language translations. This is the annotated edition. It is thick, and it is well worth your money. And if you want to buy it yourself, it'll be in a pinned comment below. And this one is called Gudbrand on the Hill. Here we go. There was once upon a time a man called Gudbrand. He had a farm that lay far away on the side of a hill, and they therefore called him Gudbrand on the Hill. He and his wife lived so nicely together and agreed so well together that everything the husband did, his wife thought it so well done that it could never be done better. However he behaved himself, she was just as happy. They owned their land and had $100 at the bottom of a chest, and they had 2 cows tethered in the barn. This is a weird story, by the way. But then one day the woman said, "I think we should go to town with one of the cows and sell her. I do, so that we may have shillings to buy with. We are such good folk that we would do well to have some shillings in our hands like others have. We can't begin to use the $100 that lies at the bottom of the chest, and I don't know what we are to do with more than 1 cow. And it will also be better for us that I won't have to look after it, not having to sweep up after and tend to 2. Well, Gudbrand thought this was both correct and well said. He took the cow and went to town with it to sell it. But when he came to town, there was no one who would buy the cow. "Oh, well," thought Gudbrand, "then I shall return home with the cow, I shall. I know I have both stall and tether, and it's just as far back as forth." And so he began to wander homeward. And there he is with his cow, carrying it across the grass. He's a bit of an older man in a bowler hat. Simple line drawing here. The cow looks tired, which makes sense, because I think he just walked at a fair distance when it's used to hanging out in a field eating grass. But when he'd come away on the road, he met someone who had a horse to sell. Gudbrand thought it better to have a horse than a cow, and so he swapped with him. And when he'd gone away further, he met someone driving a big, fat pig before him. And he thought it better to have a fat pig than a horse, so he swapped with the man. He went away further, and then he met a man with a goat. He truly thought it better to have a goat than a pig. Which is, I disagree, by the way. That was the weirdest swap for me, but let's carry on. So he swapped with the man. Then he went a long way until he met a man who had a sheep. Then he swapped with him, for he thought it was always better to have a sheep than a goat. It's better than to have most things than a goat. When he'd gone a while farther, he met a man with a goose, and he swapped the sheep for the goose? I don't agree with that one either. And when he'd gone a long way, he met a man with a cock. He swapped with him, for he thought like this: it's always better to have a cock than a goose. I'm not going to look at chat. Just not going to do it. Then he walked until it grew late in the day. By then he had begun to grow hungry, and so he sold the cock for 12 shillings and bought himself food with it. For it is better to save one's life than to have a cock, thought Gudbrand on the hill. Nope, there's no chat right now. Then he walked homewards until he came to his nearest neighbor's farm, and he dropped in. "How did things go with you in town?" the farm folk asked. "Oh, they went so-so," said Gudbrand on the hill. "I cannot praise my fortunes, but I cannot blame them either." And with that he told everything, how things had gone from first to last. "Well, you are going to hear of it when you come home to your wife," said the man on the farm. "Help me. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes." "I think things could have been much worse," said Gudbrand on the hill. "But whether things went ill or well, I have such a kind wife that she will never say anything, no matter what I do." "Yes, I know that well, but not because I believe you," said his neighbor. "Shall we wager on it?" said Gudbrand on the hill. "I have $100 at the bottom of a chest at home. Do you dare to match it?" "Well," they wagered, and then he remained there until evening. At twilight they wandered together over to Gudbrand's farm. There the neighbor remained listening outside the door, while the man himself went in to his wife. In the house to see his wife. "Good evening," said Gudbrand on the hill when he came in. "Good evening," said his wife, "and thanks be to God that you are here." Yes, he was that. Then his wife asked him how he fared in town. "Oh, so-so," replied Gudbrand. "It is nothing to praise. When I came to town, there was no one who would buy the cow, so I swapped the cow for a horse, I did." "Well, thank you very much for doing that," said his wife. "We are such good folk that we can drive to church as well as others. And as we can afford to keep one horse, then we can add another. Go down and bring the horse in, child." "Well, I don't actually have the horse. When I came here a distance on the road, I swapped it for a pig." "No, no," cried his wife. "It's almost as if I'd done it myself. I thank you truly for it. Now we may have meat in the house, and something to offer folk when they look into us too. What would we want with a horse? People would think we are too fine to walk to church as before. Go down and bring the pig in, child." "But I don't actually have the pig either," said Gudbrand. "When I came a distant farther, I swapped it for a milking goat." "Oh, no! Oh, no! So well you do everything," cried his wife. "What should I do with a pig? When I think properly about it, folk would have just said, 'Over there, they eat up everything they have.' Now that I have a goat, I can have both milk and cheese and get to keep the goat too. Let the goat in, child." "No, I don't actually have the goat either," said Gudbrand. "When I came a distance on the road, I swapped the goat and got a good sheep instead." "No!" cried the wife. "You have done everything just as I would have, just as if I'd been along. What would we do with a goat? I would have had to clamber over the mountains and valleys to bring it back again in the evening. No, if I have a sheep, then I can have wool and clothes in the house and food too. Go down and let the sheep in, child. But I don't have the sheep any longer, said Gudbrand, for when I'd walked a while, I swapped it for a goose. Oh, thank you for that, said his wife. And many thanks, too. What would I do with a sheep? I've neither a spinning wheel nor a spindle, and I cannot be bothered with the pulling and toil, or making clothes either. We can always buy clothes, now as before. Now I will have goose meat, which I have long wanted, and now I can have down for my little pillow. Go down and let the goose in the goose, child. Well, I don't have a goose either, said Gudbrand. When I'd come away longer on the road, I swapped it for a cock. Oh, whew. I don't know how you come up with it all, cried his wife. It is, all of it, just as if I'd done it myself. A cock! That is the same as if you bought it an 8-day clock. Every morning the cock crows at 4, so we can also get up at the right time. What would we do with a goose? I don't know how to cook goose meat, and I can fill my pillow with sedge. Go out and let the cock in, child. But I don't have the cock either, said Gudbrand. When I had walked another distance, I grew terribly hungry, and so I had to sell the cock for 12 shillings to save my life. Well. Thanks be to God for what you did, cried his wife. No matter how you behave, you do everything just the way in which I would want it done. What would we do with the cock? We are our own masters. We can sleep in for as long as we like in the morning. Thank God, just as long as I have you back, you who behave so well. Then I need neither cock nor goose, neither pig nor cow. And then Gudbrand opened the door. Have I won the $100 now? He said, and his neighbor had to confess that he had. We're talking about children being named after medications, which is insane. Janera says, as a yarn spinner, I don't like her. Rory, I think your chat is safe. YouTube seems to be working overtime in the chat and keeping me quiet for your wholesome rated streams. Oh, is it really? I mean, admittedly, I do have a pretty high auto filter on because it's just me, and when there's problems, which I haven't had for a while, but I used to have a lot of, you know, I got to stop the whole stream to fix it, so whatever. Yeah, this was you see what I mean, though? This was a real doozy for people with dirty minds. All the stories. Zombie Wolf says, her father is like this. Which is nice. It's nice to have somebody in your corner. Alright. Well. Those are all the stories. Man, that went longer than I expected. That was an hour. I didn't waste time getting into it either. Next week, we will be reading more from the Asbjornsen and Moe volume. A rather long, but really quite good tale called Kari Woodenskirt, or Woodenskirt. The Gemstory was chagrined. I'm surprised it didn't filter such a harsh word. Gia says that was a rigorous workout, Rory. Thank you. It will occupy the whole stream. Might even be this long. I don't love the ending of it, and I don't think you will either. But I think it's actually a surprisingly interesting tale. It's one of those tales where it has a touch of like, it's still a fairy tale, but there's something a little bit modern about it, just in its structuring. Janera says I made a couple that the censors didn't catch. I mean, obviously, even if I had like people who were moderating for me, I don't think I would ever fully turn it off, for this stream anyways, but it proved more frustrating for when I was doing the varietal show stuff, because a lot of the varietal show stuff is not really for kids anyways. Like, this stream isn't technically for kids, but I don't want to go out of my way to make it hostile to kids. Just sometimes it's going to be stories that kids shouldn't be listening to anyways. But yeah, in the varietal one, I mean, that's a bunch of people who are comfortable swearing and stuff, hanging out with each other, so who knows. But yes, Tammy makes a good point. Since we have Zombie here for a rare live visit, does Zombie have a random fact? As for me, I'm going to go turn my air conditioning on. We'll see if we get that Zombie Wolf fact, though I think I'll probably have to call it before they have a chance to type it. Or maybe they just don't feel well enough for it. But for the rest, GS, Uncle Kitty, Genera, Lizzie Rose, Jum Store, Tammy Morelli, maybe I've forgotten some people, Uncle Kitty. At any rate, the folks who've either lurked or joined the live chat or in any way joined me for these stories, I greatly appreciate it. And I hope you had fun. And I'll keep the fire going. You folks have yourself a good sleep.